Hello everybody and welcome back to Aurora 4X. I of course am Surveyor, and today we are going to be designing our first ship, our geological surveyor. Now it should be fairly easy. I'm just going to pop over into our class design where we created our initial temporary ship. You don't really want to be touching any of these buttons or doing anything until you have a ship. So if it's blank, hit new as the first before you do anything else. Otherwise you might get a whole bunch of errors. So let's first of all go over the class design interface. First things first, Empire drop down if you are using designer mode. Class is your actual ship. Now you don't design individual ships per se, you design classes of ships and then you build individual ships of that class. So if you don't have ship name here, ship name is later on, you get class name. You can name it whatever you want. It's ultimately flavor, but it's ideal to have it named, well, it's ultimately flavor, so it's up to you. Type is ship or PDC. PDC stands for Planetary Defense Center. It is essentially a giant bunker that is buried into the terrain of a planet or otherwise stellar body. We are designing a ship, so we're going to leave it as ship. Hull is essentially what it is going to do. Now, you start off with a whole bunch of hulls, but you can, these are basically added in by Steve, by the way. You can create your own using this button here, new hull. And hull is essentially what it is. So, destroyer, escort leader, destroyer, dreadnought, dropship, exploration ship, fast attack, fighters, fleet tugs, gunboats, all kinds of stuff. Some of these are in Russian because Steve, I believe these originally came from Steve's US versus Russia game. The first one that he did an AR for, which you can find on the... no, it was NATO versus USSR, not US. Anyway, yeah, but that's why some of these are Russian. Now, we are going for a geological survey vessel. There we go. Next across, we need build. This is build points. This is the essentially cost of your ship. The higher this is, the longer it's going to take to actually build the damn thing. Next, we have various flags that you can use. Tanker designates it as a tanker. Collier designates it as a missile delivery ship, so essentially a magazine ship. Conscript stops the ship from picking up trained crew, so stops it from drawing from this pool. It does, of course, completely tank the crew grade. So generally you want to only use it for large ships that have a lot of crew that don't need crew grade. Obsolete will flag it as obsolete. Supply ship will designate it as a maintenance supply transport. Size in tons is a flag that changes all HS sizes into tonnage instead of hull sizes. And keep excess Q is primarily going to be used for carriers. It stops this number, which is spare crew berths. It stops this number from being auto-culled to as low as possible. Fighters and ships docked to other ships need to have their crew value in spare berths of the mothership in order to not rack up deployment time. So for carriers, anything with a hangar, you want this. Anything without a hangar, you don't ever need to take this. I'll cover these once we actually start working with guns and weapons. On the left panel, you have crew accommodations. Deployment time is how long a ship will head out before it starts losing morale. Morale is only useful for combat ships, survey ships, and that's about it, really. Combat, survey, they're the only ones that are really affected by morale. Commercial ships don't count morale otherwise, but survey ships do. So we want a nice long deployment time. Let's start with 2 years, so 24 months. This is in months, by the way. So 24 years, 2 months. There you go. This is a quick little rundown of how much actual, we'll switch across to design view, how many crew quarters supplies it needs. So we have 10 crew, and we need 2.884 tons of crew quarters per person. So we need 17.33 capacity of crew quarters. So 3 crew quarters small is rating of 10, 20, 30? I don't know. I'm not quite really sure exactly how it works. Oh, here we go. That's how much capacity you need, but that's the accommodation hull size required. So that's how much of this stuff you need. So 0.5, 0.6, just under 0.6, 3 smalls, 246, bam, there you go. And that's how much we actually have available. You used to have to add these in manually, but Steve changed it so that it does it automatically. So generally, you set your deployment time, and then you can basically forget about it. You don't have to do anything there. But this will tell you how many berths you have, how many spare berths you have, and how many cryo berths you have. Down here you have passive defenses, so armor, class size, armor area, armor strength, columns, shield strength, shield recharge, and internal hits to kill. Exact class size is the actual class size of your ship. Below 10, it does not get rounded. Above 10, the tonnage gets rounded up to the nearest 50. So 5.5 is 275 tons. Above 500 tons, it will always jump in lots of 50, even if you don't quite have, even if you add stuff that's below 1 hull size. Class size to armor area, don't even bother. The math on that is absolute bananas. I do have a calculator sheet that can do it for you, or the game can do it for you. But essentially, what you need is the armor strength in armor. So conventional armor has how much does conventional armor have? I think it has like 2. All projects. Conventional armor. I don't know. It has like, I think, 2 armor grade per hull size, right? So if we need 4 armor strength, so we need 3.8. So 3.8 divided by 2 is 1.9. So there you go. So we have 1.9 hull size worth of conventional armor. If we had better armor, it has more strength per hull size, which means better armor needs less tonnage of armor to match that strength. So you want better armor, it makes your ships lighter. Columns is... when I talk about armor, I'll talk about columns, but essentially... the armor you have is layers by columns. But yeah, I'll get to that later. Shield strength and recharge, I'll talk to once we actually have some shields to work with. Internal hit to kill is the hit to kill total of all your components that actually have hit to kill. Hit to kill is a simple measure of how tough your ship is. Essentially, whenever any damage comes in, that damage is applied to components one by one. If it matches or exceeds their hit to kill value, the component is destroyed, and overflow damage continues on to other components. If it does not match hit to kill, then it has a chance to destroy that component that is proportional to the damage dealt compared to the total hit to kill of the component. The more hit to kill, the less damage you take. The more hit to kill and the less damage you take, the more likely it is for a component to survive the hit. Simple division. Total hit to kill divided by damage dealt divided by hit to kill equals chance to be destroyed, if I remember correctly. So if 2 hit to kill component takes 1 damage, it has a 50% chance of being destroyed. The hit to kill value is not reduced between hits. So if you take 2 1 damage hits to a 2 hit to kill component, then each hit has a 50% chance to destroy that component. But if you take a single 2 damage hit, then it has a 100% chance to destroy that component. So more hit to kill on a component is good. Power systems is used for engine power is for your engines, and there's a quick little math for tonnage that we'll get to that. It's tonnage divided by engine power times 50,000. Max speed or hull size divided by engine power times 1,000. Max speed is the max speed of a ship. It's also displayed here. Jump rating and jump distance we'll talk about once we actually have a jump drive. Reactor power and power required we'll talk about once we start using energy weapons. Missiles do not use reactor power, and energy weapons, direct fire weapons are the only thing that need reactor power. Build and load time. So this is build time is based off that 5,000 ton ship that I mentioned and your build rate. So as it is, you're looking at about 0.2 of a year for a 275 ton ship. But it is based on build points, not necessarily tonnage. So it's based on these two. Load time is how fast it takes to load up a full load of cargo. And I'll talk about that once we actually build our freighter. Show civilian designs. It will give you a list of your... Well, it's supposed to give you a list of your civilian ships, but I don't think they've actually designed any yet. So summary view gives you the total summary. Design view is where you actually design your ship. So here we go. We have a single layer of armor. We have some fuel, a bridge, engineering spaces. A ship under 500 tons is classified as a fighter when it's not a commercial ship. So it doesn't need a bridge. See, no bridge required for ships under 500 tons. Same with engineering spaces. You still need one, but you can use like... Hang on. We don't have those yet. But you can use like any one engineering space for it. But because it's under 500 tons, we don't need a bridge. However, once we stick our engine on, it jumps up over 500, so 1,000 tons. So now we need to put that bridge back on. Okay, we now have a 3,200 ton ship with 2,000 kilometers per second of speed. We're also going to stick a couple of geological survey sensors. There we go. So 1,500 kilometers, not too shabby, and 3 survey points an hour, which is pretty reasonable. 50,000 liters will net us 27 billion kilometers. Now, in terms of range, this is the more important number compared to this. At least for ships that do not travel alone. When ships travel alone, both of these numbers are useful. If you know the exact distance, you want this, but otherwise, if you know it, you want to be able to run it for like a year, then this is also useful. However, once ships start moving in fleets, and you start having ships in the same fleet that have different speeds, this number is useful. This number goes out the window, because whether this ship is traveling at 1488 or 20 kilometers a second, this range will always be the same. It'll just take it longer to get there if you're doing 20 kilometers a second, but it'll still get to 26.9 billion kilometers. 209 days, that's only at full power. So a ship that has... for example, if this ship was traveling with something that has only 20 kilometers a second, this ship is going to be able to run a hell of a lot longer than something else that has much less days and much less range. But if they have this, so if they have the same this, you can guarantee that the ships working together will have the same range. This, less so. So it's more useful for you when you're building military fleets that have slightly different designs, where you want this, but for civilian ships and commercial ships, this is also useful. Okay, now 27 billion kilometers. That is not that crash hot. From Sol to 25 billion. How much is that? That's about that far. So that's basically a one-way trip out to the far reaches of the Kuiper Belt. So 25, you're looking at about that far out one way. That is not enough to survey Sol. So back to our class design. We're going to stick more fuel in. We are going to go with the biggest one we have. We have small and the fuel storage. Now, fuel storage, you will always get the exact same amount of fuel per ton, no matter which one you use. Even the biggest ones, you have the exact same ratio of fuel per ton. However, you'll notice that it takes 5 small fuel storages to have the same capacity as one regular fuel storage, but 5 small fuel storages cost 15 boronite compared to 10 for the fuel storage. So bigger tanks are cheaper than multiple smaller ones for the same capacity. So for ships that are not facing combat, just use the biggest tank. For a ship that is going into combat, you might want to consider smaller ones, because if a tank is destroyed, and they all have just a single hit to kill, if a tank is destroyed, you lose every drop of fuel in that tank. So if you only have one big giant tank, you save a little bit of cost, but if that tank is destroyed, you're dead in the water, and you've lost all your fuel as well. So we don't need the small fuel storage. We're just going to run this. And we're just going to add them in until we get about 300. Yeah, that's not too shabby. We can probably fit a bit more. We're building our... we're building up in... Well, you know what? It's going to take 2 years as it is to build it right now. So I think we're just going to actually reduce this down to 218. About 200 billion kilometers. That's good. 45-50 tons. 2-year build time. Now, a good chunk of that is going to be the engine. And I'll show you that in a sec. You also have these buttons here will add the selected one. So add, remove, does the same thing. Multipliers, so you can put 100 of something if you're building something colossal. Own tech only will only show technology that you own, that you can actually build. So if you design something, so what you can do, so if you have an engine, you can create the technology, and you can untick that, and I think you should... No, I'm thinking something else. Okay, so this one here is for systems that you have found from aliens and stuff like that, or recovered from wreckage, that you did not necessarily have the technology to build yourself, but that you have in stockpile. So if you have captured components that are too technologically advanced for you to build, you untick that, it'll make them available. Group components groups these things here into categories. Obsolete tech will enable visibility of technology that has been flagged obsolete, and commercial only will eliminate anything that's military. So you can see here the ICBM launch control is military. So if you're building a ship that is explicitly meant to be commercial, tick this. It'll stop you from ever accidentally making it military. Next, moving along, ordnance fighters, missile and carrier loadouts. So you can put fighter loadouts and magazine loadouts that are default. This will cause ships that are built to automatically load missile or fighters according to this, if the missiles and fighters are available. Fighters are actually a little bit different in that if you select your loadout and then build a fighter, that fighter will automatically dock and assign itself to a mothership that has itself, that needs more of itself. So magazines you have to load manually, but fighters will land on their own mothership as they're built. So you don't have to build a carrier after all your fighters are built. Component summary is a summary of all your components. So as you can see, we have one engine. It's a size 50. It's 54.9% of the entire mass of our ship. Right? It has a cost of 31.25 and geological sensors at 300. So you can see that our geological sensors are 60% the cost of the ship. So even though the engines are the largest part of our ship, they are definitely not the most expensive. That is our geological sensors and our fuel storage as well, because we don't have large fuel tanks. Our crew, and how much of our crew is in our equipment. Obvious fuel tanks don't have any armor that is not crewed. Obviously, crew quarters, well, they don't need crew. Otherwise, you'd get recursive and all kinds of crazy crap. 5 bridge, 5 in our engineering space, and the rest are of course in our sensors and engine, and our internal hit to kill. Now, this is the total hit to kill of all the components in this category. So, engineering space, 1 hit to kill. Bridge has 1 hit to kill. Crew quarters, we have 3 of them. Each one has 1 hit to kill, so we have 3 there. 8 of our hit to kill comes from our fuel storage. 3 comes from our 3 sensors. And 25 comes from our engine. So, the engine is going to be the only thing that can actually handle any kind of hits and not be destroyed, because everything else is 1 hit to kill per component. DAC ranking info. So this set allows you to set who can actually command the ship. If you set Admiral, only an Admiral can control that ship. If you set Lieutenant Commander, anybody can control that ship. Priority allows you to set in what order an officer is determined. So for example, if we set it to Captain, and we set this higher than another ship, this when the game is distributing captains, this ship will take priority over any other ship that is also only able to use captains. But we're going to run lieutenant commanders, and priority is nothing, because it's a military. We don't need a great commander. We just need any commander. You can set the default name themes for these. Let's go with the astronomers, because it's a surveyor. Now, this is a very useful section. Eligible additional classes if this is a primary class for a shipyard. Ships that are similar enough, there is an equation out there, but ships that are similar enough in terms of build point cost to each other can be built from the same shipyard. So, for example, if I copy this design and I add a small fuel storage, there you go. So you can see that if we were to tool up a Canberra, we could build the Canberra copy. So, for example, if you build, so this one has like 3 billion extra kilometers range. So we could build that instead if we wanted. So if you can get ships that are similar enough designed, you can have them built from the same shipyard. That will stop you from having to tool multiple shipyards and having multiple shipyards. The calculation is complicated. I'm not going to go over it now, but it is available online. And of course, you can put notes, whatever the hell you want. This is a damage allocation chart. Now, if you have a look down here, internal hit to kill is 41, but we have a DAC of 82. What is the hull size? We have 91 TCS, which is the class size, right? 91 is our class size. Now, 12.2 of those are 12.2 tons are armor. 12.2 hull. Are we in tons? No, we're in hull size. So we have 12.2 hull size worth of armor, right? 610 tons of armor. So if we go in here, we take 91, we subtract the 12.2, and we get 82? 91 from 12, 91, 87, 77? There's a little bit of discrepancy here. But essentially, this is the chances Oh, hang on. Armor, crew quarters small. I can't remember exactly how it works, but roughly this is the allocation of damage that can be distributed. So when damage is allocated, the game will roll a random number between 1 and 82, and it will, whichever number it gets, that's the component category that gets hit by that damage. And then it picks one of those components in that category to receive that damage. Electronic DAC is for microwaves. So if you get hit by a microwave weapon, then it uses this DAC and not this DAC. So microweapons cannot destroy a ship, they can only destroy components in here. Ships and class will just tell you how many ships you have of that particular class in service, and glossary gives you a rundown of what all the various things mean. There you go. Fairly straightforward. Now, I'm pretty happy with this with the Canberra. I'm wondering if maybe fuel storage 75 up to. No, that is a significant jump. The 4 of. Well, it's 14 extra. No, it's like 10 extra. Yeah, no, it's not really worth adding more. Okay. Down here, rename the class design. If you want to give it a new name. New will give you a new one. Auto rename will give it a new name based on the theme. Delete will delete the design. Select name will give you an option to pick names from the various lists. NPR class will set, I believe that sets it as an NPR design. Doesn't need to do anything. Renumber gives it, renames all the members of the class with class name plus number. But it does remember what the old one is. So you can rename them all like Canberra 1, Canberra 2, Canberra 3. Probably you'll never want to use this. New armor will upgrade armor to a new design. So if you create a design and you're working on it and you're planning and you're designing it, and then you get new armor technology, you hit that button and that will give it that'll redesign it with the latest armor technology. So useful button in certain situations. New hull will set a new one of these. Lock design will lock it so it can't be modified. When you tool a ship or build a ship, it will auto lock the design. The reason why it does this is that if you were to add an extra fuel tank onto the design while there are ships in play, every single one of those ships will it'll instantly and immediately get that extra fuel tank. They won't get the fuel, but they'll immediately get the fuel tank. They also won't get the crew related to that fuel tank, so it screws around with your crew rates. And you can make all kinds of bugs if you mess around with designs that already exist. You require Space Master to unlock a design. So if you accidentally launch a ship and you realize, oh crap, it has no engines, you can unlock it, stick an engine in there to get those engines in, and then relock it. And then you'll probably want to pick up the crew from that engine and all that jazz. But essentially, that's what that is. Design tech allows you to create design technology, and a copy will create a copy. SM mode can be activated through here. Refresh technology will refresh this screen if you have new technology. Obsolete component will mark a component obsolete. Fleet assigns will show you what ships are assigned to what fleets. View technology will give you the technological report screen. And text file will export this into a text file, which is useful if you don't want to copy paste it just out of this, because you can. No theme name will prevent the use of the themed class name. So if you want to create new ships without drawing on this list, which is limited and will eventually run out, you can flag this. Hide obsolete components, sort alphabetically, size, hull type, and cost. And that about covers the ship design. Now, since we have our Canberra class geological survey vessel at 4550 tons, I am satisfied with that. We're going to get out of that. Now it is 5,000, just under 5,000, so we cannot build it just yet. So we're going to stick an extra 1,000 tons on our slipway, and we are going to build that. Now, in terms of ship construction, one thing to note: a naval yard can construct a commercial ship. A commercial ship can be built in a naval yard. The reason why you want a commercial yard is because a commercial yard is 10 times the tonnage capacity of a naval yard for basically the exact same time and cost. So if you have a 50,000 ton commercial ship, and that's in the low range for commercial ships, if you have a 50,000 ton commercial ship, it's going to be a hell of a lot faster, cheaper, and easier to get a commercial yard up to 50,000 tons than it is for a naval yard up to 50,000 tons. So ideally, you're going to want commercial yards for commercial ships, naval yard for naval ships. But because this is our only yard and it's only 5,000 tons, we're going to tool the Hammond shipyard, the Hammond Shipbuilding Company shipyard, to build it once this is done. That's going to be 1st of February, year 6. So, about half a year. Not very long at all. So, that is that. How is our industry doing? That is set and building. That's fine. Now, one thing you want to do is you want to pre-build components as well. So if we go back to our component summary, right? Our engine cost 31.2 to build, and our geological survey cost 300. Now, the construction rate for our shipyard is 400. So it's going to take almost a year just to build those geological survey sensors, right? If we go back in here, 400 cost, that is Geosurvey, engines pushes up to 31.2. That's about everything that you can actually pre-build. But we can save 31.25 build cost off our shipyard, building it at 400 per year, and build it in industry, which is 4,000 per year. So one engine, yes, thank you, and 3 geological survey sensors. And we're gonna just tap these to be, say, 15 and 85, because it's actually, that's just under a third. That's probably going to be better. We'll pull these out. And we'll push these in. So 8th and 10th of June, yeah, that's fine. Actually, we might even be able to just close it, because we have 6 months, right? We have until February 6th. So we don't need to have them built so quickly. January 6? Oh no, it's January 9. October 5. Probably don't even need that. 27th October. 29th November. 10th January 6. February 6. Close enough. And this one, June 5, July 5, March 6, no, that's too far. October 5, okay, we can't get it any less than that. I mean, we could, but, yeah. Okay, now we can continue building other stuff. We have 36 spare, yep, we can keep building mines, and 6%. October 5, October 6. You know what? We'll give it to this thing. October 5th. Cool. Okay. So that is our production. So we're going to get our ship's worth of geological survey and commercial engine we're going to have those built by end of October. Shipyard will be done in February. Let's let her spin. How is our science doing? Getting there. It's fine. How's the industry going? And we can see that it's building them slowly. October's not too far off, just a couple of months. Alright, one geo-survey is done. And you can see in stockpiles, one geological survey sensor. Thank you. And 2 sensors. Yep. Almost done. And done. Okay, that's the engines done and geosensor done. Good. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, so we can see here 3 sensors and the geo and an engine. We're 60% of the way done to our labs. Now we've got a new scientist. Who did we get? Nathan Brady. I think that's literally as worthless as a scientist can get. Yeah. 5 is the minimum, 0 is the minimum, and biology is one of the least useful branches in the entire game. He is literally as useless as you can get. At least as a scientist, you know, I'm pretty sure he is actually useful as a Xeno team. So if he was surveying, or if he was so in a team, he would be useful. 30% xenology is actually really impressive for a Xeno team. But as a scientist, yeah, he's terrible. Absolutely atrocious. Okay. Moving along. Almost. New officer, naval. Don't need that. Now, it is under 4,500 tons, so we probably could have just done 500 and have it be done early. But, oh well. So, retool to Canberra. So, as I believe I mentioned, your first tool is instant and free. So, it is done already. So, we are going to start building the Mark Aronson Canberra class surveyor. Task group is Shipyard TG. You always want to be using the Shipyard TG for your construction task group. Any task group that a ship is being built into is essentially locked from being able to complete any orders until the construction is complete or cancelled. One other thing to keep in mind is any ship that's under construction, it will immediately grab any components out of here, and it will not give them back if you cancel it. So if you're pre-building ships, make sure that you're ready to go before you start building it. Because if you cancel it, you lose the components that you pre-built. Okay. Construction. Build cost is $493. 493.65. Yep. These numbers do not take into consideration any pre-built components. So even though it says the build cost is $493.7, it's actually about 330 less than that. So it's still going to take a significant amount of time, but it's not going to take the full, well, no, 320, what's it, hang on, how much was it? Yeah, it's 332 less. So this is going to be done really fast. So let's go and build. You get no real feedback except that the name changes. So if we go in here, we'll see that it's done and the components have been taken, and you can see that the construction is in September. So 1st February of 06 in September. You'll also notice that our build rate is 245. That is because it's just under a 5,000 ton ship, but annual build rate is 400. So because our ship is a little bit smaller than a 5,000, it's a fair bit less, actually. It does also matter because because there is also a factor of size of shipyard compared to size of ship, as well as size of ship compared to the build rate. It's complicated. It's very, very complicated. But things you can do. You can delete it. You can pause it. You can bump it up to higher or lower priority. This is priority for receiving minerals towards the construction. So if you have two ships being built, one of them is running and they're both eating each other's resources, you can pause one or bump the priority so one of them gets the resources before the other one. Schedule gives you the estimated completion dates of all shipyards. I believe that hasn't updated yet, which is why there's nothing in there. And once you have it, you can rename ships and change names and stuff like that. So that is shipyards. So we are going to have the Mark Arison constructed on the 28th of September this year. And considering that is how long it's going to take with the pre-build, imagine how long it would take without the pre-build. About 2 years. Let's continue on. We're getting 2.1% of the ship built per week. So that is fine. And you'll notice that it is now locked, and armor has also locked as well. Because if you were to change these, you're going to mess up your ship when it's constructed. Okay, how are we doing on production? Now, it only uses, how much fuel does it actually use? 400,000. We don't actually have enough. So we're going to restart our refinery again. And we're going to start up production. Our sorium is, we have 4,700 tons of sorium. So we're gaining about 8 anyway. We're going to be using up a little bit. How's the minerals doing? We are still running issues with macassium, neutronium, and duranium consumption. Keep in mind that most of the macassium is from the research labs, which we are not yet building. The rest is from everywhere else. We're going to keep going. We're actually really close to finishing conversion of our standard conventional industry into construction industry. It's not very far off at all. Conversion to mines is also not going to take too much longer either, because it's only 20% less of the production. And we're producing a fair bit of them at the moment. Now, once we run out of conventional industry, we are going to have to build them proper, and they do cost 120 to be built straight up. We are going to also reduce the amount of actual build points, construction points pushed into the construction factories, but I'm wondering if maybe we should just not, and just get it up as high as we can really, really fast. We do still have 55 million people on Earth. We're up 63 million, which is 12.75 more in our manufacturing center. So we're at 55 at the moment in terms of how many people we have that can work for us. That is going to go away really fast once we start building new factories rather than converting old ones into new ones. $5.9. We're actually going up because I'm pretty sure 32.85. 32.8. Yeah, so it actually requires less people to run one of these than it does to run a conventional industry. So at the moment, we're actually gaining workers. Automation is essentially taking people's jobs. All right, our ordnance factories are done. We want to switch this, ramp this up to 20. Get them out sooner. Convert industry to construction is almost done. What I want to do is construction factory. We are going to be producing another 100. We're only going to produce 20%. We'll bump that into there. There we go. Aha! Our ship is now ready. The Mark Aronson has been built. We now have our first ever human spaceship. Well, human and giant gimpy bush spaceship. Okay. I think I'm going to put a break in there. Next episode, we are going to be going over giving orders to ships. How this whole screen works, and how to tell your ships what to do, where to go, and not screw it up. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time where we send out our surveyor to go find us more minerals in our solar system. So I will see you then.